right this moment. So I just did that. But Eva Rosenberg is going to be back on the show, and I have not had her on the show in a hot minute. So I'm excited to have her back on the show. I'm sure she's going to be able to tell us about all the updates on the Trump tax plan and what you need to know about that. She did that last year. And she's just an all-around great lady. This is how savvy of a businesswoman and how wonderful she is. I quoted her the new prices for the ad buy, right? She emails me back and says, that's ludicrous. Raise your prices. This is why I love Eva Rosenberg. She's a wonderful woman. But anyway, so she's going to be back on next week. I'm super excited to get a whole hour to talk to her. And then the second hour is actually going to be a re-air. Not because I'm doing anything with business. I'm actually going to a big party in New York Saturday. I'll be in New York City. I'm airing from NYC Friday. So the second hour will be a re-air, and then we have tons more guests coming up after that. But Eva Rosenberg's going to be back, and then another sponsor of mine is Robert Houston, Mr. Credit Repair himself, repairing credit all over the place. If your credit is messed up and you need to raise your credit score, it happens. Divorce, all kinds of stuff. Check him out, mrcreditrepair.biz. Check him out on the website. Check out the ads on come on, Melanie, my show page. That's what I was trying to say. But getting back to the market and the trade war that apparently is continuing with China. There's one thing that the market does not like is uncertainty. It doesn't like uncertainty. It doesn't like change. And, we're changing the UN ambassador. We're changing. I think I heard in passing that we were changing the chief of staff. Like I was literally sitting in a car for about 10 minutes, just kind of trying to get my life together after being in the educational environment for 8 hours. And I came in the house and I thought they said something about a new chief of staff, but I decided to listen to music and didn't listen to the news because I had to de-stress by belting out some Jill Scott for an hour and preparing for the show. Hey, Doug, welcome. Welcome, Linda. Welcome, Lynn. Welcome, Teddy Lee and David. But I thought I heard Shep Smith say something about a new chief of staff. I could have sworn. But the market doesn't like any of that. And then I think, a couple days ago, we had this trade war thing, settled. And then now we kind of don't. So, doesn't like iffy stuff. What's up, Eric Jessup? Listen to me drink. Okay, first of all, let me be clear about something. This is iced tea. Okay? This is not as badly as I would love this to be wine. And for those of you in SHR Media Land don't know what I'm talking about, as a reminder, I stream live on Facebook. All I did was upgrade my glass so I could feel a little bit better about my day. That's all I did. Yes, this is a wine glass, but this is iced tea. In the glass. In the glass. It works for Diamond and Silk, and y'all just love them for some reason. Unbeknownst to me. But anyway, this is iced tea and nothing more. I can show you guys the McDonald's cup that it came in. All I did was take it out of the McDonald's cup and put it in a nice fancy glass. That's all. All right. You're listening to Money Talk. For those of you in SHR Media Land, the Facebook stream is laughing at me and my iced tea, my $2 iced tea in my $20 glass from Pier 1. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. I am so super excited about having Peter Hugg on. He is the director of global trade for Kitco Metal. We're going to get down to serious business and talk about whether or not you should be buying gold. Should you be investing in metals? We're going to talk about what it is all about. I'm really excited because he's my first, metals investor that I've ever had on the show. And I know people have been asking about it. So done with the laughing and giggling, and it's time to talk some money. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialists remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and my guest that I have with me today is the one and only Mr. Peter Hugg. He is the Director of Global Trade for Kitco Metal, and he's talking to us today about whether or not we should be buying gold. What should we be doing? What should we be investing in? I'm very excited to talk to him because like I said before the break, I've had many people ask me that question, ask me about what they should be investing in. Is there anything to this gold thing? Is there anything to this silver thing? What should I be doing? And I've never actually spoken to a gold investor, so I'm really excited about having him on the show. A little bit about him: he's been involved in precious metals industry since 1974. He speaks to thousands of viewers each week on Kitco News, drawing on years of frontline experience to provide a trader's perspective on the market. He contributes daily commentary and market insights for millions of readers visiting Kitco.com each month. He's also a frequent speaker at precious metals conferences and in the financial media. He's one of a handful of experts who have succeeded through multiple bull and bear cycles using his skills that he's honed during dramatic fluctuations of the 80s. Those of us who have been around long enough to remember that. Prior to joining Kitco, Mr. Hugg served as Senior Vice President at Guardian Trust Company and is now a part of I'm sure I'm going to mess this up. I apologize. Laurentian Bank, which became one of the largest international trading houses for precious metals. Mr. Hugg developed his first precious metal certificate program and the first margin trading accounts for metals on the cash market. And without further ado, Mr. Hugg, how are you?
I'm doing well, Melanie. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to finally talk to you. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, is there anything that I left out of your bio that you'd like to tell the audience to further familiarize yourself with the audience?
Well, I've basically been in and around.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I somehow lost contact. I apologize. I somehow lost contact with my caller. I am sure that I will get him right back. I apologize. I'm sure that he'll realize that the call dropped and call right back in. I apologize for that. And I think that one was completely my fault. I'm positive that was completely my fault that I dropped a call. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm sure he's going to call right back in. I apologize for that. That was definitely an error, a user error on my fault, on my part. I apologize. Hey, Chris Arms, how are you? How are you? I really wanted to hear from him. I'm sure he's going to call right back in. I cannot believe I did that. That's a first. Hey, Kevin Stuckey, welcome. Well, I had my guest on. My guest was talking, and I hung up on him. It was very rude. I didn't mean to, though. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping he's going to call back, but I totally hung up on him. So I'm just waiting for him to call back. I'm so sorry that I did that. Oh, my goodness. But this is par for the course. This is really actually the kind of day that I've had. And I thought, oh, you do, Doug? You love me anyway. And I actually finally had gotten myself fairly relaxed. and then I just did that. It's okay. It's really fine. It's par for the course for the week. Has anybody noticed the very cool backdrop behind me? For those of you at SHR Media, you can't see it, but if you ever pop on to the show page, you can see all of the videos, and I have a new backdrop, which kind of matches the cover to the Facebook page, which is kind of cool. I am hoping my caller is going to call back. It's a wine. It is not wine. I swear it's not wine. Good evening. I apologize. That was completely my fault. Totally my fault. That was not you. That was me. I apologize profusely. That was me. Now, please talk to the audience. They're tired of hearing my voice. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I sort of faded out. I thought I was still live.
You literally were just starting to tell the audience about your background.
Based on my history, I think you covered the main aspects of my experience in the precious metals market. I started in the business in '73 as a foreign exchange dealer. Quickly evolved into a precious metals dealer and have been dealing precious metals since the early to mid '70s. I joined Kitco in 2010. They had grown from a company of 7 people to well over 220. I knew the owner, who happened to be a client of mine in my previous life at Guardian Trust, and asked me if I could step in and help him run the precious metals division. So I've been with Kitco since the early part of 2010. And I'm responsible not only for the North American operation of Kitco, but we also have an operation in Hong Kong, so I'm also responsible for the Hong Kong trading desk.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have so many questions about this. I don't even know where to begin to start. There was a time when you didn't see, and you don't see. I'm wondering how. Now, of course, everybody in the Facey chat is accusing me of drinking. Accusing me of this not being iced tea. And it totally is. But anyway, there was a time when you didn't see advertising for investing, and there was a part of me that thought that there were some legal issues with doing that, but you see it all the time, particularly with metals. And that confuses me a little bit from the financial advisor perspective. Are those? Is that a different type of investing that we're seeing on TV?
No. Let me just start with a caveat. I'm hoping your audience isn't expecting me to sort of get on a pulpit here and indicate the world is coming to an end and you should sell everything you own and buy gold and go hide out in your bunker with 6 months of food and a couple of loaded rifles.
I don't think they're expecting that. Then I think I dropped your call intentionally.
So let me start with the caveat. Gold is a good investment, but it's also a bad investment. And the reason I say that is it's the same as Apple stock. Had you bought Apple 5 years ago, you'd still be laughing. Had you bought Apple about 9 months ago when it was trading at $225, you wouldn't be very happy right now with the close today at $165. So, gold is an investment, and it should be looked on as an investment. And there are times when gold is a better investment than times when it is a lousy investment, and it really depends on sort of the overall economic landscape and what's happening in not only the financial world but the geopolitical world that sometimes would indicate holding gold as a portion of your portfolio makes a lot of sense. And there are times when you want to hold a larger portion of your assets in a precious metals component, and there are times when you want to have a lower weighting of precious metals in your overall portfolio. So, gold is not the end-all, be-all of investment. It doesn't always go higher. There are times when gold is in a bear market. Perfect example, between 1992 and 2002, gold was trading in sort of the mid-$300 range and almost didn't move for 10 years. It stayed within about a $50 range. Now, if you got into gold in 2002, when gold was trading closer to about $450 an ounce, and you looked at it again in 2011 when gold was trading at $1,925, you'd say this is the best investment I've ever seen.
Sure.
So again, I want to put the caveat under there are times when you want to have a weighting in gold and sometimes make more sense than others. So, given that as sort of the overview, my next question always to clients, and I've been asked this question ever since I've been in the business in the 70s, is should I buy gold?
Right.
And, the real question comes down to it's what's the motivation behind why you are buying gold. So there's a couple of things you need to answer for yourself. One, are you buying gold the way you would buy a stock, in the sense that you're looking at a price point on gold, thinking it's reasonably priced, that you want to buy it with the intention of selling it for a capital gain. So you more have the focus of a trader when you have that type of sort of outlook towards buying or selling gold. You're looking at it as an investment the same way you would anything else you buy, whether it's government treasuries, long bonds, real estate in some instances, or equities, stocks on not only the U.S. exchange but also on international exchanges. You're not buying Apple at $165 because you like the iPhone. You're buying Apple at $165 because you think the price is going to be higher than $165 somewhere down the road.
Right.
So that when you sell it, you have a capital gain.
Right.
So if that's your motivation as to why you should get into the gold market, then there are times that are extremely good to be invested in gold, and other times where you don't want to have gold as an investment with that type of motivation behind your transaction. Now, the sort of the second psychological reason you would buy gold is not so much that you're looking to make a capital gain on it. You're looking at it more as a protection against your overall portfolio. So you're happy with your stocks, your bonds, your real estate, your CDs, but there's a potential that there could be a geopolitical event, an issue between the U.S. and North Korea, for example, or the U.S. and Iran, a possible situation where you have a financial distress a la 2008, where you want a portion of your portfolio in an investment that will protect you to some extent in those types of circumstances. And there you might have an allocation, again, depending on what the overall sort of geopolitical and fundamental climate looks like, of 5 or 10% of your portfolio allocated to precious metals. And here you're actually hoping that they don't do much, that gold sort of holds its value, but you're not really hoping gold's going to go up $500, because if it does, it generally means the balance of your portfolio is getting hit somewhere else.
Okay.
So, it's more of an insurance type of policy that sort of gives you some comfort level that if we do have a geopolitical event or there is an issue such as we're seeing right now with the equity markets down almost 1,500 points from the high, where it does afford some protection in your portfolio. So, I mean, since the Dow hit the high of, roughly 2,650 a few months back, gold was down in the neighborhood of 1150, so gold's come up about roughly 10%, and your equity market is down about 10%. Very, very rough numbers, but close. I'm probably accurate within a 2% margin of error there. So if you had some gold in your portfolio, you would have at least mitigated some of the losses that you're now looking at in the equity market.
Now, this must be hard for you to stay away from, because I'm sure that you have. You said, you mentioned geopolitical issues, and you mentioned investment as far as, a regular investor is just trying to make some gains, right? But you don't have anyone who comes from a religious, prophecy perspective about and having a gold investment. Nobody ever. I just got a phone call from Malaysia. That's bizarre. But anyway, but I'm surprised you don't have anyone come from that perspective. I would find that shocking if no one just comes out and says to you that that's a reason that they are looking into it.
I missed the reason. What was the reason again? I'm sorry.
For religious reasons, for prophecy reasons, Bible prophecy reasons, and things like that. I'm surprised that no one says that to you. Because
well, nobody said it directly, but I mean, there is, when I first started, when I sort of gave you the overview and the caveat about what to look at or to think about when you're looking to invest in gold, like what your motivation is. There is a relatively large group of investors, and it seems to be very specific to the United States. I don't run across the same psychology in Canada. And it's possibly because the U.S. in its history has banned the ownership of gold. But there is a group of investors that have a total distrust for U.S. institutions, certainly the U.S. Federal Reserve, and the banking system in the U.S., and have absolutely no confidence whatsoever in the system. And they believe that the fiat currency system is going to collapse, and the chaos and the anarchy that is going to develop is going to provide a reason and a necessity to be holding gold sort of as a barter currency when the fiat currency system collapses, so that you'll be able to survive the financial Armageddon that has been now expected to occur since 1978. When inflation started to run and got up as high as 18%. So
you're sounding like you don't necessarily buy that theory.
I'm not disagreeing with the argument that there are some serious potential issues with the the global financial system. Not so much in the U.S. I think there's been some safeguards put into place since the 2008 debacle. But the European Union has some issues, especially in Italy.
Sure.
So there are spots in the world where there is serious issues on the financial side. Closer to home, if you look at Argentina, I mean, their currency is totally debased. They have inflation running at 800%. I mean, it's an absolute mess in that country. The argument that if the global currency system and financial system were to collapse, that gold would be a viable barter currency, I find difficult to comprehend for the following reason. I mean, if everything falls apart and we're basically in survivalist mode, where everybody's hunkered down, obviously they have whatever they need to protect themselves, your primary two things you're going to be looking for, maybe three things. One is shelter. The other is obviously food.
Yep.
And the third is going to be some form of energy to keep yourself warm, unless you happen to live in southern Florida. Now, I can't imagine going to my neighbor's house and knocking on his door and saying to my neighbor, "Here's a 10-ounce gold bar. I'd really like you to give me that can of gasoline."
Yeah, who cares?
I'm not sure if that system would work, because what's my neighbor going to do with the 10-ounce gold bar? If there's no fiat system available, then there's really no exchange mechanism to create value for that gold bar. Now, it's possible there could be a complete barter system that develops around it, but I think that's a stretch. So I wouldn't be buying gold for that reason, but buying gold because you believe that the financial system could come under stress again, that you don't trust the big banks from making the same mistakes they made in 2008, If you have that mindset, then holding gold will certainly provide you, in my opinion, a hedge, as it did in 2008 when gold ran from approximately $500, $600 an ounce up to 1925 during the financial crisis.
I mean, it would seem to me that if you have everything else in place as far as your financial health is concerned, then that would certainly be an option. You know what I mean?
I think there's other things you want to put ahead of making sure you have a 10-ounce gold bar, if that really is your concern. But again, I'm not diminishing their fear. I think it's legitimate. They honestly believe that this is a reality, and that's fine. And they do account. This group accounts for a sizable takeoff of the physical market in the United States. It probably accounts for about 20% of the volume that you see in the physical gold market on an annual basis.
Well, I think it's more and more. I think with technology and that kind of thing, and the more knowledgeable people get about our system, like for instance, I think more and more people are becoming aware that the Fed is privately owned. That's scary. But it would also be scary if it was owned by the government. Like either way, like the size of the Fed and just the entity of itself is frightening. And the amount of power that it has is frightening. Like it only takes one really powerful person. And then, when you kind of dig behind that screen, it's scary to think about how that entire operation works. So maybe that's, with all the freedoms that we have, and God knows I don't want to live anywhere else. But, I think I feel like the more information we have access to and all the freedom that we have in America, like the scarier it is to understand how we maintain those freedoms. It's kind of like...
Well, yeah, you're certainly not going to get an argument from me. And again, I don't want to be sort of the chicken little, the sky is falling type of analyst. But again, back in, the first time gold took off back in 79 when it started at $100 and ran up to $8.50 and silver ran from $3 up to $50, this was more a financial issue with inflation running rampant, and the Federal Reserve was well behind the curve, and interest rates back in 1980 were as high as 15%, and inflation was running somewhere just north of 18%. And that was the primary, and that collapsed the dollar. And because of the collapse in the dollar, that was the primary impetus for moving metals higher. And what we had between 2008 and 2011 was similar, but it wasn't inflationary. What it was the Federal Reserve bringing interest rates down to zero, which we lived with for almost 7 years.
Right.
And that implied that inflation was going to take off, and what happened was inflation did not take off, and I think that it did not take off in this latest cycle when the Fed went to zero, because of the technological innovation that has occurred in North America over the past 10 years. It's really kept our pricing mechanisms well in line, and it really has kept a lid on price and goods inflation, which is one of the main catalysts that creates a situation where gold goes higher. But with interest rates at zero and panic in the financial market, people were just looking for any kind of protection, not only in North America, but on a global basis, because the Europeans went through the same type of crash that occurred in North America. And so you had capital flows into the precious metals as a sort of a safe haven play. Then about 2 years ago, the Fed made it very obvious. I mean, they told the market, this was not a surprise, that they were going to start tightening. And, as they started tightening, first of all, let me finish the thought from the 2008-2011. As interest rates went to zero in the United States, it impacted the dollar. The dollar started to drop, and that also drove commodities in general higher. About 2 years ago, the Fed came out and announced that they were going to stop quantitative easing. and they were going to start buying back their bonds, and they were going to start to try to normalize interest rates.
Right.
So as interest rates were going higher over the past 2 years, even though they weren't going higher in big spurts, they were going progressively higher, 0.25% here, 0.25% there. And as interest rates in the U.S. went up, the European recovery is still behind that of the U.S. The Europeans kept their rates lower than the U.S., and whenever you have that interest rate differential, not big money, but money, capital flows will go into the higher yielding currency. So what they did was they came into the U.S. stock market, and that's why you had this record run in the U.S. stock market over the last 3 years as international investors saw the stock market going higher, but also the U.S. dollar going higher. So they were making money on both sides of their transaction. And that has been, over the past 2 or 3 years, relatively negative for the commodities group as a whole. And that's why you've seen gold come back down in 2016, hit a low of $1,050, and silver drop all the way down to where it is now in the mid-14s. Now, over the past 2 months, 3 months, we've been extremely constructive this market. We believed in August that all of this rhetoric from the Fed that they were going to go and raise interest rates 3 or 4 times in 2019 was not likely, that they were probably going to increase in December. And as of this morning, I forget which Fed governor said it. I don't think it was Powell. I can't remember his just tip of my tongue, just not coming out, indicated they may not even go in December.
Really?
So, yeah, so if the Fed doesn't go in December, I still think they will, but assuming the Fed doesn't go in December, or even if they do go in December, that's already baked into the market. I don't think the Fed's going to be that aggressive in 2019 because we've seen what a 10-year yield on a U.S. bond over 3% does to the equity markets. And now you have an inverted yield curve, which 9.9 times out of 10 has indicated a recession is about a year away.
I heard the R word like 2 days ago. And I was like, hush up your mouth.
Well, I mean, if you think of that, though, and now you get interest rates stabilizing or maybe even softening in the U.S., the Europeans have indicated that starting in 2019, they're going to increase rates there because they're, again, have been behind the curve. So now you may have a situation where the dollar now comes under pressure because now funds will move away from the dollar and move back into the euro or possibly the Japanese yen. And in that context, that would be very positive for the precious metals. So, I mean, based on our analysis back in August, we thought gold and silver hit their lows for 2018 back then. So far, we look like we've been right. Gold hit a low of 1147 in August of this year. Silver got under 14, so it's still, I wouldn't say rebounded significantly, but it is off its low. And so we're relatively price constructive, the precious metals, at least through spring of 2019.
Nice. So probably the next thing we should talk about is if you're interested in metals and you want to buy, how do you actually go about doing that? How does that work? I mean, on TV, they're buy it. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The option, you have a myriad of options. I did a study.
Well, you know what? We're up against a break. I hate to cut you off, but we're up against a break. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll talk about it on the other side of the break. How about that?
Not a problem.
Okay, you're doing awesome. Thank you so much. Very excellent information. I'm so happy I have you on the show today. This is Peter Hugg I have on the show. He's a director of global trade at Kitco Metal. He's telling us all about metal investing, whether or not you should do it, what it's all about. I'm loving this because I am getting an education here. I hope you are too. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics,
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
and all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events? All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Place Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Love the Unpleasant Blonde Guy. He's the best. I have not talked to David in so long. If you have not checked out his podcast, he is, oh my gosh, he's smart as a whip, and he is not unpleasant at all. He's actually a very nice guy. But he calls himself the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and I asked him why he called himself that, and he said you haven't. He said ask my ex. He's hilarious, but his podcast is fantastic, man. You got to check out the Unpleasant Blind Guy. Google him or go to SHR Media. You can find his podcast. He's fantastic. And Mike Fitzpatrick, welcome to the Facey Chat. Eric, all of you other folks in the Facey Chat, welcome. And they're still discussing what's in my glass, which is unsweetened iced tea. As rough of a week as the Business Diva has had, it is still unsweetened iced tea. No drinky on the air. And somebody said, teaching will make you drink. This is true. I often said if the union really loved teachers, they'd put a margarita machine in the faculty room. Just saying. Like if they really cared, there'd be an open bar. Just saying. I don't think that's going to happen now. Apparently, parents frown on teachers drinking at school. But anywho, let's get back to my guest, Peter Hug. He is the Director of Global Trade for Kitco Metal. We're talking about buying precious metals, investing in gold. And before we went to the break, I said we were going to talk about how you actually go about doing it. How's it work? So I'm Melanie, potential precious metal buyer, and I'm like, and I'm saying I'm going to buy some precious metals. How do I go about doing it? What's the first step?
Okay, well, again, I'm going to answer your question by asking you a question first. And
what's my goal, right?
Well, not so much your goal, but are you comfortable within the system? And I ask you the question for the following reason. So if you're comfortable within the system, by that I mean the financial system, you can buy gold in the form of an ETF, which is the same way you can buy stocks. You can buy gold in the form of mining shares. There you need a bit more expertise, because not only are you hoping that the price of gold will go higher, which will move your mining shares higher, you also want to make sure the management of the mining company that you're buying is good management, and they know how to turn a profit. And there are other things that you need to know on a mining share: cost of production, cash flow, certain things like that you need to analyze. The same way you would need to analyze whether buying Apple stock or buying IBM makes sense. You need to do your homework on the company to make a determination whether the valuation of the stock makes sense relative to the assets that the company is providing to the market.
Okay, so it's not the specific asset that you're necessarily looking at. It's like anywhere else, you need to look into the company that's selling the asset.
Yeah, I mean, if you're buying gold shares, it's exactly the same as if you're buying shares of any other company.
Gotcha.
You got to look at the competitors. You want to see what their burn rate is. You want to see if they're net flow cash positive. You want to see what the expertise of management is. If they have a track record. So there's a number of things that come into play when you buy mining shares. Again, exactly the same way you would assess whether or not when you buy any other stock. Whether the stock makes sense to buy at the level that it is being quoted when you're looking to pull the trigger. The third way to buy metals, which seems to be the most popular for the more medium-sized investor, is buying physical gold. But here you also have options. One, you have the option of buying the gold and having the dealer hold the gold for you. And store it in what's called an allocated account. So it's basically off balance sheet from the dealer, held in your name. Now, the downside to that is that you'll be paying an annual storage fee, but the dealer will have the gold in proximity. So if you ever want to sell it, it's easier to sell. You have quicker liquidity when you're looking to sell your gold. The other way to take physical is you could actually have it delivered. And almost all dealers that trade in precious metals will deliver gold to your house, to your residence. Then you have the following potential issues. One, you have the gold in your house. So,
right.
If you're not worried about being robbed, or if you are, you have to figure out a way to insure that gold, and that's not covered under generally your household insurance plan. It's basically covered as jewelry would be with a specific rider. And,
I was about to say, what kind of rider is that? Right. Okay.
And also, when you buy physical gold, you pay, you'll see the gold price quoted to you in the financial papers. Now, that's what's called the interbank gold price. If you're buying physical bars or coins, they carry a premium, and that premium in dealer terms is called a fabrication premium, and that's what it costs to make these units. So you may pay a premium of anywhere from, depending on what type of gold products you're looking to buy, anywhere from $10 to possibly as high as $50 over the price of gold. For example, an American Gold Eagle sells for approximately $45 over the price of gold.
Oh, wow.
And, and that's because the U.S. Mint that makes the American Eagle sells it to the wholesale dealers at a 3% premium. So if you look at gold today at, again, for round number's sake, at $1,250, 3% of that is approximately $38, $39. So that's what a wholesale dealer that goes in and buys 5,000 or 10,000 ounces of gold eagles from the U.S. Mint. That's their acquisition cost. So now they've got to move the eagles because they're delivered local San Francisco. So if the dealer is in New York, he's got to move them from San Francisco to New York, where he has his fulfillment centers. So that might be another, dollar a coin, depending on the quantity that he's shipping. So let's assume the dealer has an acquisition cost of $40. Well, he's got to make money. So now this dealer, who's the wholesale dealer, doesn't trade with retail clients, sells it to all the mom and pop retail precious metals dealers that are scattered throughout the United States, probably anywhere from a $5 to $8 premium, so $45 to $48. Now you have the retail dealer who also has to make money, so he's going to sell it for whatever he can get away with. Could be $5, $10, $15 over that price. So by the time the end user retail client goes to this dealer, they could be paying anywhere from $50 to $65 premium for an eagle. So
then you're really cutting into your.
It's kind of a lousy investment unless, again, you're guilt to believe the world is going to, end, and you need these for barter purposes. There are much less expensive ways to buy gold than buying physical coins that carry those types of premiums. Now, you could consider buying gold bars. They trade at premiums closer to about $15 to $20 over the price of gold. You could consider, we have a product, there's a number of other dealers that also offer this product called Vault Chain Gold, which is digital gold, where the gold is stored in the client account at the Royal Canadian Mint in Canada. And clients have the access of seeing their gold position and being able to trade on that gold position whenever they want on a 24/7 basis. And there the spread, again, depending on the size of the trade, will range anywhere from $5 to $15. So there are ways to get into the physical market as opposed to buying an ETF or gold stocks that are much more cost advantageous than buying coins. And one other comment I want to make, and I don't want to, because I'm now a U.S. resident, so I'm not trying to raise the Canadian flag here. but I've never understood why somebody buys a gold eagle. First of all, if I'm going to buy a gold coin, there's two things I want to consider. One is liquidity, and secondly, if I ever need to, what's the liquidity outside of my own home market? Now, gold eagles are not a very popular coin in Canada. And the reason for that is because it's a 22-karat coin. It's not a 24-karat coin like the gold buffalo or the Canadian maple leaf.
Oh, we don't do that. We're Americans. We're Americans. We don't. That's not something that we consider. We're Americans. We don't.
But if you ever want to, if you want portable wealth and you want to take your gold across the border and you take gold eagles into a Canadian dealer, they're going to be discounted because when we sell those coins in Canada, they're taxable.
But you've lived in America for a while. You understand that's where we get off the train. You understand that.
Well, I'm trying to give you an overview, and we have an office in Hong Kong, and I can't give eagles away because the Chinese will not buy anything that is not 490 gold.
We're Americans. We don't care. We're like, it's an eagle. We're buying it. We don't.
Then if you're looking for an eagle, then you got to be prepared to pay $50 to $65 over gold. If you're looking for a maple leaf, you're going to get closer to about $30 over gold, and if you're looking for a gold bar, you're looking at anywhere from about $15 to $20 over gold.
I'm not in any way suggesting that that's a financially sound decision. I'm just saying that it's we're Americans and we can be ridiculous. That's all. all I'm
Well,
suggesting.
I mean, I think the U.S. didn't realize what they did when they did it, and that's why they came out a couple of years later and came up with the gold, not a couple of years, about 5 years later, with the gold buffalo, which is a 4/9 gold coin, 24 karat. And what they were trying to do was make up for the fact that the Canadian maple leaf and some of the other sovereign gold coins, like the Austrian Philharmonic, the Australian kangaroo, and the British Britannica, were all 4/9 gold coin. And here you had the American Eagle at 22 karat. So they came up with the American Buffalo, which is also a 4/9 gold coin, but just doesn't seem to have the same attraction as the Eagle.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Americans predominantly buy Eagles and are willing to pay that extra $20 to $30 premium for that right.
We do. Unfortunately, we are out of time. You've given us so much information, and I so appreciate it. How can we get in touch with you? How can my audience get in touch with you if they are interested in further information?
Okay, well, just one more comment.
Sure.
If anybody wants to buy precious metals, the first thing I suggest you do is try to educate yourself a little bit. And here again, this is not an advertisement, but Kitco.com, and again, I've been in the business for 40 years, is a very unusual company. When you go to the site, Kitco.com, you'll notice that there are anywhere from 20 to 40 to 50 commentaries daily. And they're not all bullish. They're not all saying, buy gold, buy gold. Some of them are saying, I think gold's going lower. But they're written by people that have been in the industry a long time. And it's a good way to read through things and understand why things are happening. So it's a good educational tool. And there you'll also find comments that I post on a semi-regular basis every morning. And then I have a little video show that we do at Kitco as well. But if you have direct questions, you can certainly reach out to me at phug@kitco.com, and can't promise I'll get back to you the same day, but I almost always get back and answer anybody that has questions.
Excellent. My audience, the people in the Facey chat said you did a good job. I posted the link in the chat, and thank you so very much. You did a fantastic job. Actually, I never go overtime, but I went overtime today. And my next guest actually already called in. So I'm running late.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. You did a fantastic job. I look forward to talking to you soon. I hope to have you back.
Great. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yep, you too. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. That was Peter Hug, Director of Global Trade for Kitco Metal. He did a great job telling us all about investing in precious metals. My next guest, Lorri Allison Craig, is coming up. She's going to tell us how we can start a business on your lunch hour, and that is her calling in probably right now. Yes, that is her. I apologize, Lorri. I ran over with my last guest. I apologize profusely.
Not a problem. I just want to stand you up.
Yeah, no problem. I never run over. He just had such good information. I just let him talk. I apologize profusely. I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be right back in a few minutes. I'm sure Lorri's going to have some fantastic information for us. I'm really looking forward to talking to her. All you budding entrepreneurs out there, sit tight. Lorri's going to be right back.
Days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialists remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's mrcreditrepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette. And for our second hour, thank you for listening, by the way. You guys totally rock and put up with me. And I appreciate your listening. I really totally do. All of you out there in SHR Media Land and all of you in the Facey chat, you're awesome. Just want you to know. All of you that download the podcast and listen on the billion ways that you can listen to the show, I appreciate you. I just want you to know that. Our second guest for hour 2 at 6 is, and actually we're a little behind schedule. It's now 6:08. Lorri Allison Craig is our second guest. I'm so excited to have her. She's going to talk to us about how to learn how to start a business on your lunch hour. And I'm really intrigued by this topic because, Money Talk with Melanie is not only a show, but of course it is a business. And I've been tediously working on this little baby of mine for about 2 years. So I'm interested in how, well, she probably means just start it on your lunch break. So I'm excited. I'm very excited to talk to her today. Just a little bit about Lorri Allison Craig. She's a financial subject matter expert for the CFP board. And she's an integrative nutrition health coach, an internationally certified yoga instructor with over 25 years experience in wealth management. And she's received numerous awards, including Citizen of the Year. She plunged into becoming a serious businesswoman when told her husband had only 10 days to live. She learned to fuse her professional knowledge of finance with physical and mental healthy living to become financially abundant. Bad decisions make great stories. Amen to that. By sharing humorous stories of flipping her own financial struggles and challenges in the workplace, Lorri aspires to build a community of successful women who live healthy and earn amply. So I'm very excited to have her on the show today. And without further ado, Lorri Allison Craig, how are you?
Hi, Melanie. I'm so happy to be here. I want you to be sure and ask questions as we're visiting, especially since you're starting your own business. It might help some others that are listening in.
I'm so, yes, it has been, people have no idea.
I've been there, done that.
They have no idea. So when people knock the successful business owner, the successful small business owner for them being wealthy, I'm like, if you had any idea of the work that goes into building a business.
Well, in my work life, I have to tell you, I've done several startups for different reasons, with different quality of startups. So my first one that I did was actually a desktop publishing firm way back when Macintoshes had little dinky screens on them, and I started the first desktop publishing firm in Portland, Oregon. And I actually did it for somebody else, and after a year, another company that was in the same building where I worked said, "Hey, we'll help you buy equipment and get started with your own business if you'll do a desktop publishing firm that is PC based." So I went ahead and did that, and I was just like terrified. I had no idea how to start a business, but they helped me buy my equipment. They became my first client. They mentored me. They assured me that I could do it, and it turned out to be really successful, and ended up turning into a marketing firm, and I ended up doing like 6 color printed brochures. They call them collaterals.
Oh, yes.
Beautiful brochures. So that was the first one that I did, and I was able to be at home and have my children on my lap, which is, a streamlined path to insanity. But it was great for my children. Got to go to their events, helping out at school, going to athletic events after school. Eventually, my parents needed some long-term care, and I was able to have enough flexibility to help with that. So that was the first one. And then, as you said, I remarried, and my second husband was a financial advisor. And I just sat in the office. I got my securities licenses, the basic things that I had to get, and just answered the phone for him, really, and just kind of sat on my butt and just let him run the business. And then he got this diagnosis where he only had 10 days to live. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to run this business myself. I was just in total shock.
I'm so sorry. That had to be devastating.
Oh my word! I have no idea. And it was over Labor Day weekend, and I had a background in, eating healthy. My parents were health food nuts, and I grew up on vegetable juices and that sort of thing. So I got on the computer and I started to build an Excel chart of everything that I could find that had ever helped cancer, any kind of cancer, it didn't matter, and built this grid. And I threw my husband on, 46 different kinds of supplements and vegetable juices, and he ended up, after maybe a year of on this healthy eating, he ended up living another 15 years.
Oh, wow. You're kidding.
No, and that's part of my interest in nutrition, and it has a lot to do with running a business. You have to have a lot of energy. You know how much work it takes.
I tell people all the time, doctors do not have the last say. They never do. They're practicing medicine. They're practicing. They're not,
So I actually was not only thrust into having to learn how to run this sophisticated financial business, but I was fighting for my husband's life and doing juicing 3 times a day and doing a lot of health support for him. And a week after he had gotten this diagnosis, my company came to me and said, "Hey, your securities licenses aren't good enough to run this business. I mean, you have to take your test. You have 30 days to sit for your securities exam, or we're not going to let you be a registered investment advisor anymore." And I'm like, are you kidding me?
And anybody who has that license, it's horrific. It's just not fun at all.
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
So I ended up passing, my securities exam, and I started running a business, and ended up going to get my certified financial planner designation and an MBA in finance, just to give myself more credibility.
Sure.
it's a commonality among women, is that we just feel less sufficiently prepared. I don't know if you've heard about this study, but there's a statistic that men will apply for a job when they only meet 60% of the qualifications, but women apply only if they meet 100% of them.
Yes, I actually have a friend who's an engineer who told me that.
Yes, so
yes.
I was one of those, so I felt like I didn't know anything unless I had my MBA and my CFP and all of that. So I ended up getting those things and running that business for a lot of years. And then by that time, my husband was healthy again. So I took a 2-year leave of absence and helped start a nonprofit that brought in $11 million of support to help break cycles of poverty. And then after that, when I ended up, I stumbled. I stumbled in 2008 and 2009 when we had a big financial meltdown in the economy, if you might remember.
Recall that, yes.
Yeah, and so I ended up going to work for a very large CPA firm and kind of proved myself, and the broker-dealer registered investment advisor of the firm came to me and offered me the opportunity to start a wealth management firm from scratch. Well, by this time, I had a lot more knowledge since I had my MBA, and I moved halfway across the country, associated with a very large estate planning firm here in Minneapolis, and grew the firm from zero to over a $50 million company for a merger opportunity in 4.5 years.
Excellent.
So it does make a difference if you have the knowledge. You don't have to go and get a graduate degree or anything like that. What I have done is just put this in a relatively easy format to understand. On your lunch hour, you can listen to these little nuggets. There's about 16 different chapters with homework as to how to get your business started. And I think it's something that everybody can feel comfortable doing. It's not overwhelming. It's just the important facts. Just the facts, ma'am.
That's true, because let's face it, the stuff that you learn, and I mean, I have my master's in public administration because I'm very interested in public policy and stuff like that. My undergrad's in business. So I didn't, to me, I didn't see any point in getting an MBA. I felt like everybody had one, first of all. And
yeah.
You know what I mean?
A lot of them out there.
There's a ton of them out there. I felt like everybody had them, and I'm very interested in public policy, so I not a lot of people have that one. So, but let's face it, how much of that do you actually remember? You only really remember what you use. So
there you go.
I think, and the financial end of it is basic rules are the same. Now, the funky stuff that the public people do with accounting, downright hilarious. But because, in private business, you actually have to balance your books. So it's hysterical, but not in when you actually do budgets with a deficit when you do public budgeting. It's hilarious. So when I got my business degree, and when you got your MBA, same thing. You had to actually account for every dollar. Nah, public, don't even worry about it. Negative balance? Yeah, don't even worry about that. Just put a negative in front of it. There you go.
Roll it down kick the can down the road, they say.
just put a subtraction to. Really? I'm like, what are we doing? I don't understand what's going on here. I'm very very confused.
Yes.
So, but that's
the difference between public and private. Is with private you have to be accountable.
Right.
With public, well.
It's the absolute craziest. It is really, really crazy. It's insane. It's insane. But I digress. But that's a huge difference between those two degrees. But you really don't. The degree thing, like you said, and I completely agree with you, is all about credibility. A lot of what you remember is just what you use. And that's the sad part, is that, there are some people, and I'm sure you've run into them too, who walk around and literally do think they're smarter because they have degrees.
Exactly. And, it's becoming less important now. It's how intelligent you are and how well you think.
Right.
Rather than the degree. And it doesn't matter that you've gone to, like, Harvard or wherever. It's being able to think that's the more important thing now.
And there's seriously zero correlation between the number of letters behind your name and how smart you are. Like, I shouldn't say zero, but, like, not as much as you would think. That's all I'm saying.
I do think it probably helps give women more confidence.
Yes.
To have that. It's a confidence and credibility thing with women. It's just so important for women to believe in themselves, and that comes off of you, that confidence, so that other people also have the confidence in you too.
It's true, and I will say, as a brown woman, that was certainly one of the motivators behind me getting my master's, and I'm in my third year of my PhD, and that's definitely a motivator, is because, unfortunately, or fortunately, or however you want to put it, in the circles in which I travel, that garners respect, and.
Yeah.
It's not that I think it's a big deal. It's that I know other people think it's a big deal.
Right. Gives you credibility.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right. And when people, so it's the whole thing is really weird. Well, somebody in the Facebook stream said, well, my master's degree in llama studies helped me manage a business. I don't think so. Or basket weaving either. Yes, Richard Herschel, a big fan of the show and a local comedian. He's actually very funny. But that is true, and I think a part of it is it's kind of unfortunate that it's that way, because you have a lot of smart women out here who could probably kick butt in business, but don't have the paperwork, and don't have the confidence because they don't have the paperwork. So they think they can't do it, and they certainly could. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate, because you should just do it anyway. Like, do it. There's a number of very successful people out there that don't have college degrees. Mm-hmm. Tons of them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did a little research about women, and we're making progress. Like in the professional education aspect of it, like women attorneys, we're up to 35% women accountants and auditors, 38%, women in management, 39%, physicians, 38%. It's all around that, 35+%. So we are making progress in some of those professional areas. But we've got a ways to go yet.
It's true. And like you said, you do still, in something like securities and financial planning, obviously you do need to know, you need to know stuff.
Yeah, you have to know stuff.
You're handling people's money. You don't want to be, fumbling around.
Let's see. I was reading a comic book last week, and that's where I got my financial degree.
Exactly. You don't want to. Yeah. You do want to know stuff. That is true. You do want to know the difference between, a mutual fund and a checking account,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
You do.
It's kind of interesting since you bring it up. I give workshops a lot, and what women are just like really thirsty for is, how do I invest? How do I buy stocks myself? How do I analyze stocks? And, there's kind of we call it a confidence factor with women. They're a little apprehensive about just jumping in and investing by themselves, and but they're starting to make some progress, and I see that thirst as an indicator of the progress that women are making.
And there's a number of women that still, and I find this a little surprising, but still are like, oh, I let my husband handle that. And I'm like, okay. You never open a statement and look at it? Like, your name's on that. And if your name's not on that, why isn't your name on that? Like,
oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And there are these headwinds that women have. It's like, women live longer than men.
Right.
So, we have 80% chance of living longer than a man. I mean, he's not going to be around to open that statement or anything.
Right. And then he dies.
50% of marriages end in divorce. And women have like a huge chance of being on their own. So not knowing what's going on with finances is not the brightest thing.
No. And I know women, I mean, as somebody who does financial consulting on this, I do that as well. And you talk to it, you would start asking questions and you start probing, and like they don't know. And you have to be delicate. And, in my head, I'm going, how do you not know?
Yes, I had a couple. He was a doctor and she was the wife, and he was getting ready for retirement, and I was getting some information on them, and I asked her what her Social Security number was, and she just looked at me and she didn't even know what a Social Security number was.
Wow.
Much less what her number was.
I mean, that is crazy. That's crazy. And it's not a matter of not trusting. It's a matter of knowing what is going on in your house. I mean, really.
Uh-huh.
Just being aware. I mean, what if something, not for nothing, people die all the time, unexpectedly. Mm-hmm. So you need to, you can't just turn a blind eye and say like, oh, my husband handles that. Like, what? You don't, okay.
That would be true.
I understand he's handling that, but, trust but verify.
There you go. Trust and verify. I like that one.
Look at the statement quarterly. Check, jump online every now and then. Check things out. Make sure everything looks the way it's supposed to look.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that is crazy. And then they end up in these like crazy financial situations where, 20 grand's missing. And I'm serious. I'm serious. And I'm sure you've heard these stories.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I've heard the craziest stories.
Right. Where money's missing and the wife has no idea.
Yes.
Because, my husband handles that. And this is not to throw shade on men at all. It's just, women just tend to be timid in these areas, and we can't be. That's all I'm suggesting.
There you go. Absolutely.
We
got to leave timid at the door.
Right. And have some awareness. There's too much information out here for us to be timid like that. Katina in the Facebook chat says, see, I don't understand how women get like that. People say I'm crazy because I'm all over everything.
Well, you know what? It takes effort. And, some women are very comfortable with what they're provided with their home and their material things and that. But that's actually a small percentage of women that have that kind of lifestyle. So it just takes some effort to break those chains in that comfort area in order to make progress for themselves.
I mean, to me, I would think, don't you don't have any suggestions about what you should invest in? You don't think you have any good ideas? You don't, I mean, just one person, huh? Just running the whole financial show, huh?
Well, I remember being intimidated talking to a stockbroker. They would use, their stock jargon. I had no clue what they were talking about. And I would just be like really quiet and timid. And then as I learned more about finance and, not intimidated at all. In fact, I do the intimidating, which is kind of fun. So I've been on both sides of it.
Sure.
I kind of get it.
Sure. And we just have to, I think people like you and people like myself just have to kind of be more assertive and say, you need to, this is important for our lives and for our daughters' lives. I don't have any kids, but other people have kids. This stuff is important for our lives. It's important for women to be,
it is. And taking control of their lives. And for example, 85% of people are unhappy with their jobs. So, ladies, are you just going to sit there and be unhappy, or, take some kind of action and take a look at creating a way of making an income that resonates with your heart and soul? It's just, life's too short to work and live in unhappiness. And just, I'm proof. If I could do it, anybody can do it. Starting their own business and making progress and taking control of their lives. And, I've gotten to the point where my whole business is on the cloud, and I can travel anywhere in the world and work on the cloud and have connection with my office. And wow, what a great way to live instead of being miserable in a job.
Absolutely, for sure. So what would you say for somebody who is thinking about starting their own business, maybe doesn't have a degree, maybe doesn't have much knowledge, is really intimidated, like the woman we spoke about? Where would you suggest she start?
Well, I suggest they go to my Lunchbag MBA on my website. It starts out with discovering what you love. The homework is discovering what you love. And what are your values in life? What's important to you? And combining those two things to figure out what you would really like to do, and then do a little discussing with people and finding out what people would be willing to pay for what you do or could do. And then if they just, the first time through my Lunchbag MBA, and by the way, it's free right now. I'm going to just offer it for free for a couple of months, just to help some women get on there and be able to, get some ideas about starting their business. So by reading through it, they can figure out, okay, what's my great idea? Does it could it solve a problem or contribute to a better world? Is it something that would be rewarding to you or allow you to own your life? And then there are a lot of steps to go through, but they're very simple. And I melted down my 4 years of MBA into this little snippets that you can go through on your lunch hour and figure out what your skill set is.
Is it wakethewarriorwoman.com? Is that the website?
It is.
Okay, I posted it in the Facey chat.
Wakethewarriorwoman.com and go to workshops. And that's where my lunch bag MBA is.
Cool.
And gives all these, how to start a really small business, figure out something. It's called a SWOT. So the SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah, SWOT's everywhere.
I know you know all about that.
Yes.
But you're analyzing, well, what am I strong at? What do I bring to the table? What are my strengths I bring to the table? And then where am I weak? What do I need? Do I need more education someplace? Do I need experience somewhere? Your internal strengths and weaknesses. And then analyze the external environment. What are the opportunities out there? And then, what could be possible threats? And just analyze it and see if this is like the right time for your business, or just taking a look at that. When I was in my nonprofit, we would do lots of different community projects, and every single project I did one of these analyses to see if it made sense to even go forward and develop a community group in order to address that particular topic that we were on. And then I've got a business model in there that shows all the different areas. It's very simplified. And then writing your business plan, and a simple business plan, not a ridiculously complicated one, just something that's simple that describes the business. And the important thing about the business plan at first is your thinking. You're going through and thinking it through. Later, you can expand it if you need to go try and get some money, which is almost impossible when you're just doing a startup, but not completely impossible. It talks about getting professional assistance, getting that accountant or CPA, and getting an attorney on board, and creating your team. And with financing, if you've come up with a really great idea, usually you have to self-finance, or some people will get a home equity loan, which I'm not real comfortable about. But there's a fun new thing. It's called crowdfunding.
Yes.
And that's where you can go on the internet, and if you have a great idea, you might be able to raise funds that way. So I think that's one of the more fun ways of financing a business at this point in time. And I've got all of these resources in this lunch bag MBA.
Katina Person, who's a big fan of the show, who's in the Facey chat, said she's already printing it out.
Awesome.
I told her in the Facey chat where to find it. I was telling her, because I didn't know if she caught it the first time you said it, so I typed it into the Facey chat. She said, I'm already
Awesome.
printing it out. That's hilarious. She's great.
Excellent.
Yes.
Because the workbook you can print out. I have videos that you can just listen to, which is nice if, let's say, you're commuting or you're working out or something. You can just listen to the videos, but you can also print out the workbook, which I happen to be a person that reads things quite quickly, so I prefer that method of getting my information. And then it talks about naming your business and creating your brand. What internal business operations look like. What's a profit and loss statement? What's a balance sheet? What's a cash flow statement?
Ew! No one wants to talk about that. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I taught accounting on a high school level for a while, and I had a flashback when you said balance sheet. I'm sorry. I'm back now. I'm good.
Are you okay?
You ever had to teach
smelling salts?
Right? Have you ever had to teach high schoolers accounting? It's not fun. It's not a good time.
Yeah, but you have to do it. That's the thing. Jeff Bezos, who is the CEO of Amazon,
yes.
he's just like an insane man when it comes to doing those business worksheets and comparisons and all that. And that's part of why he's been so successful, is he's analytical that way. But, you know, you can just do it, like, really simple. My stuff is just so simple. It's just as long as you're keeping track of it.
Well, that's the only thing when you grow. And as my business is growing, I'm like, now I'm going to have to, like, really start, like, being serious.
I have to tell you a funny story. It has to do with that. So my daughter, who grew up on my lap watching my business at home, I was in a bedroom, my first business, graduated from an architectural school and started a business that was very successful. And then she spun off and started helping her husband get a business started. And she now runs a multi-million-dollar business from her home. And when she was first doing that architectural business from her home, she did these amazing renderings, very extensive architectural renderings that were absolutely gorgeous. And then to bill it, she would rip a piece of paper off her drawing pad and write down how much the architectural firm owed her, and she'd put it in an envelope and mail it. And I was like, honey, have you ever heard of QuickBooks? Says, no, what's that?
Stop. Stop. You're making I have a friend, I'm not going to say what kind of company he owns, just because he does listen to my show occasionally, but he's the same, like, he bills his company like a year, I'm like, what are you doing? Like a year later, he'll bill his company, he'll bill his customers. I'm like, and they pay you? He's like, yep. How does that, I don't understand, but I'm feeling, I'm thinking that this year my CPA is not going to let me just give her a little spreadsheet that says, you know, I may
might have to download a software program.
Yeah, because last year I just gave her like one Excel spreadsheet, and I was like, this is what I took in, and this is what I spent. And she's pretty satisfied with that. I don't think that's going to fly this year.
It's probably not going to fly.
We'll see what happens, but I don't, you know, I gave some stuff to my lawyer, and he said, yeah, I don't know about this. might have to. These numbers are kind of.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay.
It's interesting. You know, as your business gets more sophisticated, you have to get more sophisticated with your software and all the things that it takes to run a business. Yeah.
And I know better, but I'm trying to get away with it as long as because in the scheme of things, it's not that big.
Well, but you have to do everything. You have to do everything yourself. And as you grow, then you offload the things that aren't your strength. So, for example, with my daughter, she just really hated the financial side of things, but it was like huge. And I said, sweetie, do you know that there are people that like to be bookkeepers and they like to do that sort of thing? And she just looked at me like she just didn't believe me.
They're called weirdos, but that's a side note.
Somebody
I'm
likes
kidding.
to do bookkeeping.
Weird people who like numbers. They're out there.
Yeah. So you just know your limitations and hire the brains.
Yes. Same thing with with like data and stuff like that. I finally broke down and said, why am I even considering typing up leads? Why am I considering that? Why?
You're going back to the Wayback Machine.
Right. Have I gone insane? Yeah. I'm trying to think about how I'm going to get this done, and it's probably a couple hundred leads. for this new program that I'm using to send out leads. And I'm trying to figure out, I've needed to do this database forever. Anyway, I have it all emails, but not addresses. I have the addresses, but they're all on business cards, and I have not found a satisfactory app in 2018 to do what I needed to do. So I'm going to have to hire a virtual assistant, but I was going to do it myself. I used to be an executive assistant. I have the skills. I was an executive assistant for 20 years. I know how to do it.
Yep.
And then I thought, why am I...
Who wants to?
First of all, I don't want to. I hate it. Like, I hate it. And I don't have time. I have clients that I need to get back to. I don't have time.
Well, and it's not a good value for you. It's not a good value for your time. You're too valuable. So you need to hire the assistant, the $20 an hour or $30 an hour person to do those things, and you do like the $500 an hour things.
Boom.
Just expense.
Exactly. So I finally called her the other day, and I said, listen, so I don't know how big the job is going to be yet, but I'm finding cards everywhere. I have piles.
You're going to give them to her in a shoebox.
No, I'm not going to. And every time I think I'm going to type them up, I keep finding more cards. And I thought I was organized. Like, I thought I had them all together. And then I found a card carrier with like 20 more new cards that I didn't even know existed from some party I went to somewhere.
I have them just like spilling out my pockets. I have all these coats that they have.
Right.
All these cards that are in the pocket. And yeah, you have to go and organize those once in a while.
Exactly. And I thought I had them organized. I thought they were reasonably organized. They are not. So I'm like, time to give this job to someone else, Mel, because you are not doing it well at all.
Yes, exactly.
So once you get to that point, it is time to do that. I read a time management book one time that said, it was a time management / organization book. And what it said was, it was decision making and trying to decide whether or not it's worth it to pay someone to do some task for you. And basically, it said how to decide is, well, what do you make an hour? How much time, literally, how much money, literally, is your time worth? How much would you have to pay that person to do the task? If it is less than what you make an hour, then it's worth it. And I'm like, that's perfectly logical. So that's how I ended up having someone clean my crib and taking my laundry to the fluff and fold and having, all this stuff outsourced because it was insane.
Yes. And you need to give the lunch bag MBA to your virtual assistant.
Yes, actually,
they're building a business too.
She is building a business, and I absolutely will give it to her. What if your time is worth negative money, Greg said? Kenneth McClinton just entered the Facey chat, without whom the Business Diva would not exist. He actually started my show, gave me my first show. I can't believe he's here.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
He just popped into the Facey chat. But Greg also wanted to know if he could identify as a woman for the sake of listening to this conversation. Greg Wilson is a
Well, you know what? Men love this. Men love this program.
Really? Why is that?
Because it's not intimidating.
They
don't have to worry about their ego or anything like that. It's just a real down to earth. Here's the nuts and bolts of it, and it's funny whenever women or men look at it, they're like, "Well, why is it just for women? This works for men too." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I am going to write one for men." So I don't want men to worry. I will address them at some point in time.
Greg's
But
way too manly for lunch.
women are my passion. I want them to get up to global parity. The UN Women did a study that said at the present rate it's going to take 450 years for women to achieve global parity. And I don't know about you, but that's a little long for me.
What's global? I've never heard of global. I've never heard that phrase before. Forgive my ignorance. What does that mean? Global parity.
Global parity, equality, gender equality.
Oh, like what? Like you mean like financial equality? That kind of thing?
In the workplace.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gender equality in the workplace.
Gotcha. Got it. I'm all for that in the workplace. If I'm doing the same job, I should make the same money as long as it's the exact same job.
There you go.
Yeah. And to be honest, I'm very prickly about that issue because I've never run into a situation where that happens. I'm certain that it does because you hear about it so much. I've just never run into that situation. It could be the fields that I'm in, they're set in such a way that it's hard to do that. I don't work in corporate. I work in the public sector, and it's just hard to do that in the public sector.
Well, yeah. It's very hard. I've given a lot of workshops to women, and I think the last one I gave was to doctors and, what do they call them? Nurse practitioners.
Sure.
And they were sitting there and complaining that they're not paid equally to men. I was like, are you kidding me? But that's what I'm hearing.
I mean, I've certainly heard that before, and I would be infuriated if I found out that I was, doing the same job as someone else and they were making more money than me. Now, the only caveat, like the one place that I've worked in the public-private sector was a private school, and the way they had it arranged was you had a base salary, and then for every year of experience, you had a base salary, you had your education, you got a certain amount for that. And then for every year experience you got $1,000 a year for that. And then that was your starting salary. So now where I could see there being a disparity is if, you took time off for child rearing or something like that, then there's going to be a disparity there. Mm-hmm. So you could conceivably, based on that, be doing the same job and be getting paid less. I don't know if there's an argument. I don't know about the argument because technically you do have less experience because you were raising kids. You weren't doing the job. So I don't, I'm prickly. I don't, and especially since I don't have kids, I really don't have a dog and I don't have a dog in the fight. You know what I mean?
I've never heard that. That's great.
So it's a tough one for me because on the other hand, I think I would feel like, well, why should she make as much money as me? Because I've been working all this time and you were home with your kids. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's good. You should, in my opinion, you should be home with your kids. I think if you're going to have kids, you should be home with them. That's,
Well,
if you can.
And that's another reason I wrote this Lunch Bag MBA is so that women could start a business and be home with their kids.
Right. If you can
I felt really passionate about that myself.
For sure. So I'm really prickly about that whole thing because it's so complex. So
it is.
But if that, but I think there are legitimate situations where, some women have more experience and you have men who are saying like stupid stuff like, well, he's got a family to take care of and like dumb stuff, where that kind of stuff is going down.
I've had that said to me.
What?
Yes. So it's very disconcerting to sit there and hear something like that.
Because the part that's disconcerting about that is, for me, okay, that may be the case. Why do you think you can say that? If you think that, why do you think it's okay to say that? Like, you could make something up? You just felt it was okay. You could just say that to your face, and that was okay. That is the more concerning part to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the reason that it was said to my face is because they didn't want anything tracked in an email or anything like that. So,
of course, that's insidious. That's bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would make me want to break something, like his face.
That would be the understatement.
That would be a throat punch in the works, I think. That's not cool at all.
Nope, it's not. But it goes on.
How did you respond? Did you I need if you don't want to share it, I could totally understand that.
Well, I think at first my jaw, I was stunned.
At first you were like, Lori, close your mouth.
And then the next sentence after that, which stunned me even more, is that he said, if you think you will ever make as much as the men in this organization, you'll be very, very disappointed.
And then you punched him.
Just really wanted.
Please tell me, then you punched him, right? I'm kidding. I'm not advocating violence. I'm joking.
In my organization was something that's called a relationship manager, because I was a consultant, and so they handled it. And that's where I got the offer to start a wealth management firm from scratch. They were just moving me out of there and giving me another unbelievable opportunity that didn't have a ceiling to it.
Excellent. I guess that works in better than a punch.
I believe in end runs, I guess.
No, that was okay. That was good. That works. I mean, if you could have got that and a punch, that would have worked better, but I'm kidding. And just get one good one in the gut or something on your way out, that would have been better. I'm joking. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. You did such a great job. Excellent work. I posted your link in the Facey chat. I'll make sure that when I post the podcast that the link is in the podcast so that everybody can go to the link and go to the I was going to call it Lunchtime MBA. That's not right. Lunch Bag MBA.
No, Lunch Bag MBA.
To Lunch Bag MBA. Lorri Allison Craig, ladies and gentlemen. Excellent job. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I want to thank also Peter Hugg, who was here our first hour, Director of Global Trade for Kitco Metal. He talked to us about how you can invest in metals and whether or not you should buy gold. If you didn't check out that first hour, please go back and do so. He did a really good job, and he told us exactly how you can make that happen. I want to thank everybody in the Facey chat, everybody in SHR Media Land, and everybody who is listening via download on iTunes and all the various mechanisms and platforms that you can listen to Money Talk with Melanie. You guys rock. I want to thank my sponsors, all of my wonderful sponsors. You guys rock so hard. I can't believe how awesome you guys are. And remember, next week is the tax mama, Eva Rosenberg. Excellent job. Remember, all of this is very important because after all, it's your money. Have a fantastic weekend.